Hello, everybody, and welcome to the June 27th, 2018 edition of the Ephrom Josine Show. I am your host, Ephrom Josine. I'd like to start off with a correction. On yesterday's episode, I claimed that the travel ban had been struck down by the Supreme Court. That is not accurate. It was actually struck down by many lower courts, not the Supreme Court, though. That is genuinely my fault. But anyway, there were a whole bunch of primaries last night. And let me tell you, as a left wing political commentator, last night was amazing for me. Now, we're going to go through a whole bunch of Our Revolution and Justice Democrat posts, and a whole bunch of other left wing organizations just to see who won. First off, Emily Santora, I'm not sure how it's pronounced, so sorry if I mispronounced that, won her primary for the 9th District in the Colorado State House. Amazing for her. Von Stewart won his race, or won his primary, just all primaries, none of them were general, for the 19th House Delegate District in Maryland. Again, another great win. Gabriel Alvaro, Ace Vero, I believe is how it's pronounced, won his primary for the Maryland House of Delegates District 39. Angela Graham won her primary for the Oklahoma House District 66. Dr. Kirkland Hall won his primary for the Maryland House District of 38. There were a lot of them in Maryland. Now here's a big one. Lobel Griseri. Again, I'm not entirely sure how to pronounce it. I'm just going to spell it out for you guys. Grechenshirley. Green Shirley. Won hers for the U.S. House Representatives in the 2nd District of New York. And I could go on and on. Ben Jealous won his primary for the governorship in Maryland. And of course, there's the one everybody knows. There were tons others. But the one everybody saw, and the one I saw on my Twitter feed last night, and just brought a smile to my face. You guys ready? Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez from New York's 14th District beat corporatist Joe Crowley. And there were many, many others. I'd recommend going to the Our Revolution, Justice Democrat, Brand New Congress, and so on websites. But yeah, man, the progressive base in this country is winning. And I saw all these articles from like a whole bunch of corporate websites saying, we need to now do profiles on all these people. Like, shouldn't you have been doing that a year ago when this whole thing started? I mean, Joe Crowley was the one that took me the most, because he was set to lead it. He was, I think, 4th in line, was going to be Speaker if they got the House back and Pelosi ever decided to retire. And now he was primaried, and that is amazing. Now, of course, all the right-wing websites were extremely angry, especially about the Cortez victory, because she's a socialist. Well, I thought Obama was a socialist, and yet here we are. We're still not in the Soviet Union, so it's almost like they don't actually know what the word socialist means or something. I don't know. Maybe I'm just a little crazy like that. Here's an article on her from Louder with Crowder. Democratic candidate Ocasio-Cortez accuses ICE of running black sites. Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez is a socialist who upset a leftist Democrat, leftist in giant quotations, in a D plus 217 New York City district. Voter turnout was less than a Mets game, citation needed, which is even more pathetic when you consider how the Mets are playing. Then I thought about how media ties every crazy thing candidates like Corey Stewart, I totally meant to pronounce this, have to say to the entire party. With that, Ocasio-Cortez is already being put up on a leftist pedestal. Now check out this interview. And then it links to a tweet. Now, how does Crowder, or not actually Crowder, it's Brodigan. It's not actually, by the way, Khrushchev writing this one, unless it's one of her other names. I have no reason to believe it is, by the way. I respond to just criticism of ICE. That's really all it is. We know what the left's game is. Open borders. And you know what his proof is? Marco Rubio said it was. I'm convinced. But that's typical liberal. Abolishing ICE gets a little crazier. But accusing them of running black sites? Oh, as for Israel, it then, of course, shows her saying that massacres taking place in Gaza aren't a good thing. I know that is outrageous to you, Crowder. I also want to make it clear, I don't agree with the abolition of ICE. I think anyone who unironically believes that's typically an open borders person. I don't believe open borders. But at the same time, there are legitimate things you can criticize the immigration and custom enforcement for doing, especially after, you know those camps? They just hired a pedophile to run one of them where I think it was 10 to 17-year-old children are. I'm not kidding. This is from Raw Story. Immigrant Child Detention Center hired ex-Border Patrol agent busted for child porn. I'm going to read you a little more. The nonprofit Southwest Key organization hired a former Border Patrol agent to work with immigrant children despite a previous arrest for child pornography. Ernesto Pardon resigned from the government agency in 2010 after his arrest, but he was hired last year to work at the Casa Party shelter where 10 to 17-year-old boys are being held, reported Texas Monthly. He was arrested in 2008 after an undercover FBI sting for alleged possession of child pornography, a second-degree felony according to the publicly available criminal court records in Cameron County. Prosecution of the case stalled under then District Attorney Andrew Villalobos. Villalobos? I'm not entirely sure how to pronounce that. Who was indicted on corruption charges in 2010 and was eventually convicted and sentenced to 13 years in prison. So he'd already been accused of having child pornography, but the statute of limitation expired, and then they hired him to work with children. Can't criticize them. Anyway, that's it. I'm Ephrom, and good night.